Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1361. Joint Operation. Pontiff. Danitz jumped in fright, nearly unable to believe the revelation he had received. If it wasn't for the fact that this order directly came from Mr. Fool, he would have definitely cursed. Of course, if the person opposite him was Gehrman Sparrow, he would suck it up. Lord Oracle, is there anything else? The intel supervisor of the Church of the Sea Gods saw that Lord Danitz's expression was rather odd. This left him a little afraid. Danitz retracted his thoughts and forced a smile. Pay close attention to the development at the Cathedral of Waves. Yes, Lord Oracle. The intel supervisor heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed to bid farewell. Danitz turned his head and looked at Alger Wilson as he said with a brilliant smile, Mr. Fool has already issued a revelation. Alger didn't hesitate. He immediately stood up and pressed his right palm against his left chest. Danitz straightened his back and solemnly said, God said that from this day forth, Alger shall wear a mask and become the pontiff of the Church of the Sea God. Mr. Fool's will is my will. Alger couldn't hide his smile as he bowed. Half of his smile was for Danitz to see, showing his humility, while the other half was from the bottom of his heart. This was because the revelation meant two things. Mr. Fool and the Lord of Storms had reached a certain agreement. With a tacit understanding, his betrayal would no longer be pursued. Of course, he had to wear masks and use a fake name to prevent humiliation to the Church of Storms. Becoming the pontiff of the Church of the Sea God was a critical step to reaching the throne of Sea God. From Alger's point of view, this meant that he had officially become Mr. Fool's subordinate. In the future, be it the exchange for the identity of Sea God or being the leader of the Church of the Fool, there would be plenty of opportunities. As for Mr. Fool, he was a great existence that was at the same level as a true god, or even higher. How could his proxy not be an angel? After the bow, Alger waited patiently for Oracle Danitz to bring him a silver-black mask. He received the mask and wore it solemnly. While wearing a red glove, Leonard strolled along the shores of Mid-Seashire, enjoying the R&R earned from closing a supernatural case. As for the mysterious opening of doors and windows last night, he had already received the orders from the Holy Cathedral not to pursue it through investigations or learn more about the matter. Regarding this order, Leonard couldn't do anything about it because he had long learned the general truth from Old Man Palaz Zoroast. Mr. Dor had returned to the real world. An angel of time Amon took the opportunity to steal his apotheosis ritual and advance to sequence 0 error. Almost at the same time, Mr. Fool awakened further. Through Sapphira Castle, he had briefly and weakly connected to Beyonders of the Seer, Apprentice, and Marauder pathways. As an angel of the Marauder pathway, Palaz Zoroast was undoubtedly able to sense the changes in Amon's corresponding authority and his apotheosis. He also discovered that Sapphira Castle had established a connection with him. Old man, Amon has already advanced to sequence 0. You shouldn't be of much use to him now. Why do you still want to parasitize my body? Leonard took in the fresh morning air as he suppressed his voice and asked with a hint of concern and confusion. In his mind, Palaz Zoroast scoffed. Naive! Do you think that you don't need my guidance anymore after becoming a saint and having mastered a lot of mysticism knowledge? You can choose to teach me face to face, Leonard said after some deliberation. To him, having an angel parasitizing his body was both a boon and bane for him. The good thing was that even if he encountered a real mythical creature, he wouldn't be completely defenseless. As long as he softly shouted, Old man, the problem might be resolved. In addition, history and various rare mysticism knowledge from the Fourth Epoch were also rather useful. The greatest disadvantage was that his life was in the hands of the parasite. If the other party had any evil intentions, he couldn't stop it. This question was once Leonard's greatest worry, but it wasn't too problematic now. This was because Mr. Fool's awakening was deepening, allowing him to completely suppress Palaz Zoroast. Furthermore, Leonard had also become a high-ranking deacon of the Church of Evernight. He would definitely be under the watch of the Evernight goddess, and he could even be specially marked by her. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for a deity with the concealment authority to not discover Pallas Zoroast. If Old Man had any nefarious thoughts, he would have been resolved long ago. What Leonard was most vexed about was that many things weren't too convenient as a result. Although he was already used to having an old man parasitizing his body, and he would even casually chat with him while on the toilet, he still preferred having that time to himself in such situations. Therefore, he felt that having Old Man leave his body and letting him live in his house like an elder would be a better way of getting along with him. When he needed to deal with more dangerous matters, he could get Old Man to temporarily parasitize him. Upon hearing Leonard's suggestion, Pallas Zoroast scoffed. "Are you still thinking about removing the parasitizing when you return home and parasitize when out? Do you think I'm your bodyguard?" Leonard laughed dryly before saying, "If you haven't fully recovered and wish to continue parasitizing, I have no objections." Pallas Zoroast fell silent for 2 seconds before his slightly aged voice resounded in Leonard's mind. Next up is actually the most dangerous period. For the position of the Lord of the Mysteries, the Fool and Aman will definitely have a battle. When the time comes, under the influence of all kinds of beyonder characteristics, angels of the same pathway might be affected. It's better to be kept under the protection of Evernight's gaze. When the Lord of the Mysteries is born, I won't even bother with you even if you were to beg me to be parasitized. Leonard was slightly taken aback as he subconsciously repeated the name. Lord of the Mysteries? This isn't something you can fully understand. Of course, with me around, there's no need to worry. Pallas Zoroast sighed and said with pride. Leonard was just about to take the opportunity to ask when he suddenly saw a Red Gloves team member running over with a telegram. "Reverend, a telegram from the Holy Cathedral," the team member said respectfully. Leonard nodded slightly and received the telegram. He quickly scanned it. "Head to the southern continent and participate in the besieging of the Rose School of Thought." Southern continent. Rose School of Thought. Leonard narrowed down to 2 keywords. He quickly returned to the largest cathedral in this city and used large-scale ritualistic magic to establish a connection with the Holy Cathedral. In his dream, he met the Pope, Mam Ariana, and other high-ranking officials. After a simple exchange, Leonard roughly understood the essence of the mission. The various Orthodox churches would delegate 3 to 4 demigods to head to the southern continent to besiege the Rose School of Thought, which had become very active after the World War. This was a long-term mission. As the Rose School of Thought's demigods knew how to hide their tracks, they did things in a rather secretive manner. They weren't easy to locate or lock onto. It wasn't easy to deal with them either. According to what the Pope had said, it was already considered quite good to see enough results within 3 years. During this process, the Holy Cathedral would observe the situation and rotate demigods to ensure that the archbishops and high-ranking deacons were in a relatively stable mental state. After leaving the dream, Leonard looked around and suppressed his voice. "Old man, things are a little strange. Why would the various churches suddenly target the Rose School of Thought?" This wasn't an easy task. In the past few centuries, it wasn't as if the Orthodox churches hadn't made similar attempts, but they could only suppress and weaken them, without being capable of eradicating the Rose School of Thought. On the one hand, it was because there were cracks in their alliances. There was suspicion among each other and a lack of cooperation. On the other hand, due to the Rose School of Thought's demigods' indulgence, their mental states might be abnormal, but when faced with danger, they knew how to avoid, hide, and conceal. They wouldn't throw themselves into danger for no reason. In addition, with the blessings of the Chain God and the Mother Tree of Desire, it was difficult for the deities to provide precise guidance for their actions. Pallas Zoroast didn't immediately answer Leonard's question. After about 10 seconds he sighed and said with a slightly aged voice, "This is to eliminate potential threats and to prepare for the apocalypse." Prepare for the apocalypse. Leonard turned agape and wanted to say something, but he eventually fell silent. Backlund, Harvest Church. Emlyn White had just entered the hall, but before he could head to his room and change his clothes, he saw Father Yutravsky stand up in the front pew, like a mountain rising from the ground. Earth Mother has instructed us to head to the southern continent and bury the evildoers. The blessed spoke in a low voice. His voice reverberated in the hall, like a slow clap of thunder, causing the praying sanguine believers to open their eyes. So the dream last night was real. Emlyn was enlightened. Last night, he dreamed of the ancestor, and he dreamed that she wanted him to work with Father Yutravsky and the Rose School of Thought's temperance faction to head to the southern continent to deal with the Rose School of Thought members who believed in the primordial moon. Of course, if there was a chance, the enemies who believed in the Mother Tree of Desire would not be spared. As he often had fake revelations, Emlyn didn't take this dream to heart. He planned on changing his clothes and completing his prayers before seeking confirmation with Father Yutravsky. He tersely acknowledged before replying to Father Yutravsky in a rather composed manner. "There's no rush. I'll first contact the members of the Rose School of Thought's temperance faction." Father Yutravsky nodded nonchalantly and said, "Select some volunteer sanguine too." In the Intis Republic in the capital, Trier, a supervisor of an intelligence agency was assigning tasks to his subordinates. Suddenly his vision blurred as he heard a distant voice ring in his ears. "Orville. Dillon. Orville. Dillon."